Hi, guys. So, as we do these chapters, I guess a couple of the things that really kind of, 'cause you got to figure out, well, where do I start? I know that for me, walking into jail was probably the most traumatic experience of my life. Obviously at 18 years old, I've never been in jail. But the the one thing that I do recall now, jail, for those of you that have been there, and I'm not sure if you have or not, I hope not, but if you have, you know that every single day is a cacophony of chaos. It's just and not just violence, but just the scheming, and everything is just very much because everybody's bored to death, and then there's a lot of guys that are just really fucking out there, and it's just, yeah, it's pretty crazy. It's pretty chaotic. And I was there for about 7 months, and I just was completely, my whole world had just come crashing down, and sadly, I'd done the same to somebody else's family, many people's lives. And so I'm certainly not doing a pity party on that. I just want you to understand, for those of you that have been there or haven't, to get a picture of what jail looks like, and which is the first step towards, you got to go through that process before you go to prison. It's pretty scary. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. And I navigated it by the skin of my teeth. And so I think that the one thing, though, that I wanted to talk to you guys today about was, I didn't wake up one day and then just go, hey, I'm just going to go rob a store. It was a long, drawn out process that took place over getting in trouble, with detention. I guess the easiest thing to do would be to talk to you a little bit about how I grew up. Those things are called causalities. It's the environment that you live in, and it allows you to really kind of see, well, why did you do that? So I grew up in a place where my dad, well, first of all, my real mom, she threw me up for adoption. See, my mom and her my dad and my mom, excuse me, got a divorce when I was like, I don't know, 4. And yeah, so my dad moved to Boise, and then he gets a call from California saying, you got 24 hours to come pick this kid up or he's going to be an orphan. And that's not foster care, he's going to be an orphan. Orphanages. So he drives up there and he grabs me and he brings me down to Boise, and he winds up getting remarried and stuff. So he was in construction, and he ended up being kind of just a next level kind of drunk. I'd say that at the age of probably about 6, he started pretty much beating my ass as if I was a grown man. And my mom, so I had a sister too, Tina, God bless her heart. They were kind of like walking into this picture. Just a couple years later, they're seeing this, and my mom ends up telling, or my stepmom winds up telling them that, I don't care what you do with your son, just leave my daughter alone. And that really did set the tone for me on how I was going to see the world around me. Love was very sparse, and you certainly didn't hear it that often. And I can't really recall. And again, this isn't a pity party. This is just to create an idea of why I and we sometimes do the things that we do. And this is going to give you an idea of, when I walk into jail or prison, this is the mentality. When I'm walking into a Circle K store, it's not something that, ta-da, no. There's a grooming that takes place. And so being pretty much abused and having my ass kicked pretty much every damn day for years really does shape how I make choices. It really does shape what the optics are on how I see the world. So some people are like this, and they see options and they see what's going on, you know what I mean? And then there's people like me who saw the world like this, very much in a kind of there's a word, it's called scotoma. It locks out and locks on to very specific mindsets and attitudes on how you're going to problem solve. It's pretty basic. My options when I was homeless, with my clothes out in a field, bouncing couch to couch, trying to figure out what the freaking hell I'm going to do. My options were rob a store or somebody or something or die. I know that's distorted as hell, but that 18-year-old truly believed that life is over if you do not get this fixed right now. And I don't know, you guys are probably, maybe one or two of you, maybe more, have been in a situation where you feel like it's very black or white, very all or nothing, very either or. And that's when we get into this. That's scotoma. And I understand it more than anything. So while I'm going through this massive amount of abuse daily, I really was being groomed and shaped into what I was going to do with my life. So I was breaking into houses. I was using dope. If you think about it, I mean, I've used, sad, man. I can't think of anything that I haven't tried. And then God only knows how I made it through that. Drinking like a fish. My dad's an alcoholic, and I'm drinking like, yeah, let's do this. Stupid. So as I get older, obviously school, I take it out on the kids at school. I go to school and I get in fights all the time. I'm a class clown, so I need attention. And teachers were like, oh my God. I can only imagine. I was a handful. Sorry, guys. But the thing that I really want to always kind of, as I do some of these and I explain some of the reasons why matter, because then you can kind of problem solve or unwind them, and it's almost like, I guess for lack of a better word, reverse engineer some of the behaviors and mindsets and self-talk and maybe plug something in different. That makes sense, right? I mean, we have the power to do so much. But when we're taught that this is why we do things, this is what you are, this is how you're going to be, and this is how you're going to act, well, then that's what we'll do, because we don't know any different. So I'm going to unlock some of those freaking bullshit lies that we tell ourselves, because that's what they are. And we become very crafty. So when I get to a place in my life where I feel like it's very either or, what that's called, guys, and I learned this years later, it's called corrosion and cutoff. We corrode reality to a place that when we present information to the jury in our head on what decisions we're going to make, it's insane, but it's fascinating. So those members of juries in our heads are sitting there going like, yeah, no, you're not going to rob a place. Are you drunk? And so what I do is I hand this information in, and I say, hey, well, look at the evidence. I got nowhere to go. This guy's offered me a place to stay. He needs $350 a month. I have no job. I have no transportation. What are we going to do, guys? Sleep in the field? Die? That's not an option. We need to survive. Oh. Well, let's talk about it. And the jury will deliberate, and the jury will come back with, do it. Vindicated. I didn't want to do it. I was put in that position. I have to do it. And that's really the distortion that comes out of it. And that's why when it comes to making life decisions, we do it. I know I did it, and that's why I'm sharing this. I did it with very limited amount of understanding of what my options really were because of how I was raised. So, in the absence of love comes the absence of trust and reaching out to people. And my problem solving skills just simply sucked. I'm 18 years old. This is my best thinking. I believe I have it all figured out. I got this. And at no point in time did I ever have it on my heart to ever walk into a place and hurt somebody. The picture in my head was get a few bucks, hand it over to get rent. Ta-da! Never turns out like that, does it? Just have a drink. One drink. Yeah, it's not a thing. Especially if you're an alcoholic. Stop. Learned that the hard way too. So, as I go into jail and I'm kind of like, what the freaking hell, and eventually I end up getting sentenced and I got 25 to life. And this is how my brain works. I get sentenced to 25 to life. We get into the back of the police car and we're driving back to the jail. And the only thing that goes through my mind is to ask the officers, hey, do you guys know what's for lunch today? That's how numb I was to what reality really was about. I was more concerned about the lunch than I was about the fact that I just got 25 years in prison. Now, again, I have said this before, I got off easy. I just really do believe the fact that, I did more to deserve more. God's good. And the fact that He gave me a chance. So, I guess I ended up figuring things out as I go. It's like, wait a minute, that's like 25 Christmases. Holy shit. It's like 25 birthdays. Then things started to click a little bit. Jail was pretty much a shit show. And again, most of you understand what that looks like. And back then, jail was so overcrowded that you couldn't, not just the jails, but the prisons too, is that it was really hard to get to prison because they didn't have the bed space. But I ended up getting there finally. And I think that that's where the journey begins on telling you guys, what did that process look like when I walk in and that sort of thing. But I wanted to talk to you a little bit about sort of the mindset, a little bit about why I did some of the things I did before I got to prison. I think that paints a better picture so that there's an understanding. When I talk to you about some of these things, you can be like, oh yeah, that makes sense because of this or of that. Not that it's okay and not that I'm justifying it, but at least you can put together some of the puzzle pieces so that it doesn't just look like I'm yeehaw. And, but kind of sort of was, right? So I ended up getting to prison, I think when I was about 19. And I walked into Max, IMSI. And when I walked into my cell, the officer says, and I'll leave you with this, the officer says, we're not going to do a checklist on this cell. If anything's broken in here, it's going to be you that's liable for it. And I'm like, well, how's that? And he's like, sir, because nobody's ever lived in this cell before. That's crazy. No different than somebody walking up to me saying, hey, dude, your PO's not even born yet. True story. So I'm going to put together some sort of timeline so that you guys can follow that journey. And if you guys ever want to have a conversation off here, again, post the comments. I've turned that thing on so you can do that. And just know that I do appreciate you taking the time to listen to these. And Have a good day.